I, like any good child being raised up in the late 2000s, have played a lot of Bethesda games. Actually, it's a lot of Skyrim. It's so much Skyrim. I have 4 copies of that game, y'all. I have the PS3 version that I bought back when it came out in 2011. I have the PS4 version, of the PS4 remastered version, and then I have the PC version where I discovered mods and how to mod, and I dumped, I don't know, probably 3,000 hours of my life into that game across those 4 different versions of Skyrim. So, yeah. Needless to say, I was very excited when Fallout 4 was announced, because Fallout 4 is just Skyrim with guns, right? And in a weird radioactive wasteland with radioactive lizards and all, but you know what, who cares? Got that for PS4, then PC, and again modded the crap out of it, dumped again several thousand hours of my life into Fallout 4, and well, Starfield got announced. And it's like, oh my god, so if Fallout 4 is Skyrim with guns, then Starfield's going to be Skyrim with guns in space. And I think that's fair to say most players thought that's what Starfield was going to be. And Todd sure was pumping it up, right? It was supposed to be this huge, revolutionary, industry-changing game. It's over 1,000 planets to explore, yada yada, customizable spaceship, and so forth and so on. Well, it came out about a year and a month ago, and I don't think it was quite the revolutionary, industry-changing game we were led to believe, fellas. So, turns out that most of that exploring that Todd was talking about that you're going to be doing in Starfield was done on procedurally generated planets. Because, of course, if you have 1,000 planets in your game, and that game's coming out within, well, a human lifetime, you can't really handcraft that many worlds. You know, especially in an entire planet's worth of content, right? Because like Skyrim takes place, I think it's like a 16-kilometer area, 16 by like what 15-kilometer area, and that's a lot of crap in that area. It took them 5 years to do this. Granted, they've been working on Starfield for what, a decade? But yeah, so you gotta kind of let the computer take over and just make some own and make its own stuff. But that leads to very, very boring and very bland environments that are, well, the opposite of what most of us are used to when we come and sit down and play a Bethesda game. Skyrim and Fallout 4, you know, they have these beautifully crafted environments, all these little, you know, trails you can go down, things that'll sidetrack you off of the main path and pull you off to the side, and then you'll be stuck doing a side quest that you didn't even know existed for hours at a time. I mean, I have sunk literally, again, thousands of hours into Skyrim, and there's still things every now and then that I discover. I'm like, wait, did I miss this in one of my playthroughs? No way, I've played like every class in this game, but there's still, you know, some little thing that I miss that I usually find that's, again, not a mod, just something that I missed in the base game. Same with Fallout 4. So when you take that element out of a Bethesda game, turns out that creates a huge problem. Because, again, that's such a core component of a Bethesda game. Like Skyrim, for example. The main quest, I didn't care about Alduin. How many of you were already fully decked out in Daedric armor before you got anywhere near facing down that silly little lizard? My point exactly. All of us, right? So, the good parts of a Bethesda game are very rarely the main quest line. And while there were some quite memorable side quests that were present at launch in Starfield, the problem was that the players had very little motivation to go and find them. Because you weren't just exploring an area naturally. You weren't just wandering around in space, you know, jumping from one system to the next, like many were led to believe. And that brings us to the next main issue that Starfield had back when it launched. The endless menu system. So, if you don't know, the main way you travel between planets in Starfield, and again, planets, let alone systems, is through a menu. You take off from your ship. Well, what's really funny is that you don't even have to get into your ship to travel from one planet to another. It's just all done through fast travel menus. So you can literally be sitting on one planet, and if your quest is taking you to another planet, you just open up your galaxy map, select where you're going, hit X, and you're there. There's literally no need to go to your ship. So that breaks the immersion a little bit. Now, if you did want to make it a more immersive experience, and you did say, well, I don't care about that, because you can do that in a lot of games, like Star Wars Outlaws, you can just fast travel from one place to another without getting to your ship. But even if you want to have a more immersive experience and walk to your ship, get in it, take off, and then travel to the next system or the next planet, you still have to do the same thing. You still have to go to the galaxy map. You still have to select where you want to go, and you still have to press X to fast travel. There's very little, well, there's actually no flying between planets or even like a planet and a moon in this game. It's all done through menus. So at that point, it's like, well, if I'm just playing a menu, like I'm basically playing a map game now. I'm basically playing, Hearts of Iron, but in space, kind of. Then where's the drive to explore? There is none. There is no reason to go walking down a path or flying around, whatever system that you're in, whatever planet you're around, because that's not how you get from point A to point B. In Skyrim and in Fallout and in other Bethesda titles, you have to walk everywhere. So there's moments and opportunities for you to get distracted and, go on some amazing side quest. Well, yeah, it's just such a missed opportunity here. So that was one of the big main issues, well, actually, in my opinion, the biggest and the main issue with Starfield. Because while, yeah, there were some pretty neat side quests that I did eventually find, usually through, reading through the subreddit and reading other players' experiences, and they're talking about, side quests that they managed to find. There are a couple of pretty neat ones in the base game and such, but there was just no incentive to go there and find them. And then, of course, with like the release day, the bugs, the wacky NPCs, which, to Bethesda's credit, bugs have always been a pretty present thing in Bethesda games. And Starfield was fairly bug-free for a Bethesda game. Not saying none existed, I'm just saying for a Bethesda title, it wasn't that bad. But the NPCs looked kind of wonky and stuff, and the game didn't really run that well on PC, and yeah, so it was pretty rough. But the gunplay was miles better than Fallout 4, which was miles better than Fallout New Vegas, which was miles better than Fallout 3. So the gunplay was solid. The setting and the aesthetics were pretty neat. I like the retro futuristic futuristic-y, that's the word, look that they were going for in Starfield, and it works pretty well. So many players did continue on playing the game after the first couple of weeks. I wasn't one of them, because it was just boring to me for the most part. So time went on, and patches were released. So what happened in the course of this year? Well, they added in a buggy that you can drive, which is cool, I guess. You can drive it anywhere, too. You can drive it into the cities if you want to. You can drive it pretty much anywhere you can land your ship, so that's neat. And they did improve PC performance, and I believe the other consoles as well. For example, I had to play this game on medium settings at 1440p to get a good, consistent 60 FPS out of my PC. But when I was playing all this footage in the background, we were up to ultra settings in 1440p, getting a nice, smooth experience out of the game. So good on them for that. Oh, and they released a DLC. So the Shattered Space DLC released a few days ago, and I forgot that I pre-ordered the game so I could get it a couple of days early in order to do my original Starfield video a year ago. So I was quite surprised when I already had this purchased, so cool, why not do a video on it? So the DLC, Shattered Space, is centered around House Va'ruun, which has been one of the lesser explored factions in the base game, so that's cool. The way you start the DLC is you just jump to another system, and there will be the space station here, and you'll dock with it, and it's actually a really neat, cool, atmospheric intro into what's going to be, well, the next 10 to 12 hours of your life. And the gist of it, without giving too much away, House Va'ruun was doing some sketchy stuff with an energy source, and bad things happened. Rifts were open, weird blue purplish goop got everywhere, and people started to disappear and turn into these blue space ghosts. Alright, that's cool. I'm in. So what's really neat about this DLC is that, unlike most of the rest of the game, this DLC is entirely handcrafted. From the space station opening to the city that you'll go to and everything that you'll explore as part of this DLC, it is all handcrafted. So it feels like how a Bethesda game should feel. You have a natural flow of exploring and getting distracted and going on side quests as you're trying to complete the DLC's main quest line, and you'll just be stumbling around, and then suddenly you'll find yourself in some random dungeon or some abandoned building or area around the DLC area. So that's all very cool and very nice, and it feels like what this game really should have felt like back when it was originally released a year ago. So that is a nice breath of fresh air. So now we're getting these, this improved gunplay with this nice futuristic setting, with like the jetpack you got on your back that you can use in combat and stuff, and all the futuristic gadgets and gizmos and the powers that you unlock later in the game. So it's a nice blending of the new stuff that Starfield brought to the table with that old classic Bethesda feeling that was missed in the original game. Because in the original game, I do mean literally all the exploring you do outside of just the main hub worlds, because the main hub worlds were crafted by hand, it was all procedurally generated. So that was, again, very dull and boring and empty. But here, again, you get that good classic Bethesda experience. So again, the DLC takes about 10 to 12 hours to get through. And, well, this DLC, this would have been one side quest in Skyrim or in Fallout 4. And the truth about it, too, as cool as the premise is, it wouldn't have been one of the most memorable side quests in Skyrim. Maybe in Fallout 4, because Fallout 4 is kind of a step down from the Skyrim side quests as far as like the quality goes. And don't get me wrong, there were some really good ones in Skyrim. I'm sorry, in Fallout 4, but like Skyrim side quests, I still vividly remember at least 6 I can ramble off right now off the top of my head, like of course the Dark Brotherhood, all the stuff going on with the Dwemer City. I can't remember the name of it. That weird True Detective glitchy glitchy serial killer side quest in oh god, what was it? I can't remember the name of the city in not Whiterun, but yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. All of those quests were very memorable, even if I can't remember the names of the cities that they... Windhelm, there we go, Windhelm. Even though I have trouble remembering the names of the cities they took place in Skyrim, they were all very memorable, and again, many of them were longer than the main quest line of Skyrim, or at least it felt like it took me longer to complete them back in the day. This would have just been another one. Like, don't get me wrong, again, it's an interesting bit of lore to go through, and there is good stuff there. Again, if just downloading it just to get that, old school Bethesda feeling back into Starfield is something you could most definitely do, but it just would have been included in the vanilla game if this was released, back in 2011 or 2012, not its own side DLC. This isn't really up to the caliber of like the Dragonborn DLC or the was it Dawnbreaker, the vampire DLC in Skyrim, or Far Harbor, nowhere near Far Harbor levels for Fallout 4, right? That's what this should have been. But now it's, being cut up and sold as a separate DLC. I do suspect that, of course, due to the complaints about the procedural generation that was being overused in the base game, they did probably have to go back to the drawing board with this story DLC and redo it by hand, in which I do think it is a much better DLC for that. And this is $30 full price, fellas. $30, half the price of a AAA release now, for about 10 to 12 hours of old school Bethesda content and this new setting. Is it worth it outright? Well, if you're a Starfield fan and you like the lore, you like the setting, probably so. You'll probably enjoy it quite a bit. But is it enough to, like, if you hated Starfield, get back into the game, re-download it, and download the DLC as well? Definitely not, because it doesn't fix the other main issues about the game. Well, it fixes it by just ignoring it. There is no space travel in this DLC. You do not use your ship at all. You're just in the city and the surrounding area, on foot or in the buggy. That's it. You do not use your ship. There's zero ship combat in this DLC so far, and I'm like 8 hours into it, so I'm pretty much near the end. And I've watched the ending just before I sat down to record this video. So if there's a big surprise at the end, I wanted to be aware of it, and there's not too much of that. But anyway, yeah. So it fixes it by ignoring it, but the rest of the game, you still have to use a ship. You still have to go through the menus to get it everywhere. So while it's a valiant attempt to, bring back some classic Bethesda in this new setting, it doesn't fix, again, the core issue with Starfield. I mean, like, even Star Wars Outlaws does the ship thing better, where it keeps you in that, that camera point of view as you're going from the ground into space. You don't have to go through a bunch of menus to, jump to the next system, and Outlaws just pops up the bottom, you select it, and you go. And while, like, yeah, it's doing the exact same thing that Starfield is doing, putting you through a loading screen, it hides it better because, you're still in that, fixed camera point of view, like you're still driving the ship. The HUD is still there and all that jazz, so it does a better job of tricking you and keeping you immersed in the game, while Starfield, again, just smashes to black, when you jump between one system and the next. So it still feels like you're playing a game in 2011, because Skyrim, you go out of one house into the rest of Whiterun, smash to black. But again, that's 2011, right? That's 13 years ago now. At this point, technology has improved much more since then. So while, yeah, it's a nice taste of what this game could have been, it's definitely not enough, I think, to re-download the game and get the DLC on its own. Again, if you are, a big Starfield fan and you enjoy the lore and you enjoy the setting, you enjoy the characters, yeah, you probably will enjoy it. You've probably already downloaded it at this point. But is it enough to redeem Starfield? Sadly, not, fellas. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think that this DLC has revived Starfield, or does this give you hope for the future? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments down below, or you think it's just a lost cause all in all. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful Sunday, wonderful rest of your week. I hope to catch you guys in the next one.